Yep.
Let's go, Bates!
Beautiful Keller, Texas, and Vista Ridge Middle School, site of the Lone Star Alliance Invitational here in Fort Worth, Texas. Kyle Yeomans alongside Heckma Harrison, presented by Game On Sports. So glad you're with us. And, well, LSU and the Tigers at 1-2 make their way in. Raiders in search of their first win of the 2021 season. Winner takes on the winner of Texas A&M and TCU. It's the first leg of a doubleheader here on Game On Sports. And the face-off won by LSU and the Tigers. Heckman, this is a team from LSU that's led by Shane Cupp. Really wants to attack early, and you see that there. The shot just goes wide to the right from Ron Johnson.
Yeah, last week, Kyle, in Shreveport, that was a must-win game. Shane Coppins, when I spoke with him before the game, he was adamant about getting a victory versus TCU, and they got that. Came out aggressive, and they get an opportunity today in the tournament to play the winner of the nightcap.
That was their first win of the season. Here's the one-timer that does go past the goal line. No chance for Caleb Montagone to stop the shot, and LSU takes an early 1-0 lead. A one-timer from just outside the crease. I believe it was Mason Cardiff that actually put it past the goal line off of the nice pass.
Yeah, it was a pass from Devin Bonney that was set up just top side of the crease and made it look easy, getting on the board with 13:49 in the first period, leading by 1.
Of course, 15 minutes per quarter here in MCLA action. The Lone Star Alliance playing with just 4 active teams in 2021 due to COVID-19 restrictions. LSU, like we talked about earlier, just one win. That came against TCU. It was a stunner out in Shreveport. You were actually on the call for that game, Heckma, but held off a late charge to defeat the Horned Frogs. 10-9 was that final score.
Well, I tell you, a very aggressively played game. Got chippy right there at the end between those two teams, but like I said, it was a must-win game, and LSU approached it that way. They got a little bit of revenge on their mind.
Coach Mark Purcell and company will take on Texas A&M. 7:30 the official start time, and we'll get to the face-off X between the Aggies and the Horned Frogs. But here's the Red Raiders and the Tigers. Texas Tech on the other side making the long trip all the way in from Lubbock here to Keller. 0-4 on the season. Fell to TCU for the second straight week in their last outing. 10-1 was that final score out in Lubbock.
Yeah, they are a team that is severely undermanned. I mean, what you see is what you get. They don't have any substitutions, so it's going to be a game of attrition for these guys, for, going 4 quarters without any substitutions.
Far side, great opportunity again for LSU as the underneath shot just trickles off into the right. That was a chance for Caleb Monzon, the sophomore from Huntington, New York. 2 goals, 2 assists, 9 ground balls picked up in his 3 games this season. He's really the go-to attacker for the Tigers.
Yeah, and so many different options that they have. I mean, but like you said, he is definitely the go-to. And so this the goalie for TCU is going to get peppered with some shots today because LSU is going to be shooting them from every angle.
Watch some of these short sticks from LSU. Like you said, a Texas Tech team that's severely undermanned, but it's also just one that's not necessarily going to have any substitutions. Actually, 0 substitutions on their sideline, so that's going to allow an opportunity for LSU to really dodge and head straight and attack the net.
And you'll see that start to happen the later the game gets. You'll see them lagging on defense. Right now, they're getting all of those guys down within the box, trying to support their goalie, doing a good job of it.
Great rotation offensively here from Texas Tech. Long sticks doing a nice job, and actually one of the long sticks is the head coach, Patrick McShane. He does not have a long stick in hand. He's actually been having to play a little bit of the midi spot. As this one slowly skips its way in, and Caleb Monzon has his 3rd goal of the season, and that one's just out of the reach of Montagone. He didn't necessarily look like he even saw it coming.
No, Caleb Monzon, he used a little bit of the earth for that bouncer. And so, again, 11:30, and they're piling on the points already, up by 2 in the first quarter.
So a goal from Cardiff, a goal from Monzon, and it's back to the face-off X for Matt Bates. up against the head coach, player coach for Texas Tech, Patrick McShane, who with a new goalkeeper in net. Montagone, the redshirt sophomore from Cedar Park, Texas, went to Leander High School, but has not played in a game so far this season, having to come in and spot duty to replace Maxwell Cisneros.
Yeah, Bates does such a good job at the Fogo, and that's a big part of the reason why they dominate the time of possession, because of his victories at the faceoff.
2-0 early on, closing in on the 11-minute mark here in the first period. Working back behind the net is Kamowski, berated with the long stick defensively.
Yeah, it's getting shown a lot of love with that stick, but that's a shot that ricochets off the pipes, but doesn't go through. That's a great
with that far post. Saw it clank off the orange, chipped a little paint off, but Montagone was able to corral it and send it the other direction. Now Texas Tech trying to avoid a turnover. This goes all the way down to the end line. It's stopped by Ryan Britt, but it's picked up on the ground ball by Garrett Frey as the Tigers take it in transition.
Yeah, that's a good job by the long pole, stopping it from losing the possession, even though it would have went to the Tigers, and then getting these guys on the fast break.
Frey is a specialist at picking it up off the carpet. 14 ground balls now in his 3 games and change. Just about 5 minutes into the first quarter of this one. LSU trying to add to their 2-goal lead.
Devin Bunny does a good job in getting this offense set up. He's typically looking for someone camped out by the crease, and this time it's number 44, Ron Johnson.
That one poked away by McShane, straight the air, got in the passing lane, but it sticks with the Tigers as Kamowski picks it up, takes a shot. That one ricochets wide. Rebound is picked up, and now the Red Raiders going a different direction. Nice pickup by Spencer Haddock. Haddock, the sophomore out of Coppell High School, was able to get his short stick on it, take it the other direction. Whistle was blown, body check called, as the Red Raiders will send a player to the penalty box.
Yeah, so far, I was just about to say that this has been a very cleanly played game up until this point, but we get our first penalty.
Yeah, with just about 9.5 minutes left, this one skipped off the stick of McShane, was able to get right in front of the LSU attacker and Monzone. Tigers working it around the perimeter, very patient, but how about that laser off the left side from Ron Johnson, and the southpaw puts it into the back of the net.
Oh, man, the short stick, man, he sends a laser top cheddar.
That one had a one-way ticket straight to the back of the net, and you can pretty much chalk it up when Ron Johnson has the ball in his stick. 5'11", 180 pounds, the senior out of Peachtree, Georgia. Went to McIntosh High School. Works his way to Baton Rouge, and he has been fantastic this season. Now 4 goals to go with it. And another win at the face-off X as Matt Bates, the freshman, continues to do work, but it's a turnover, and the Red Raiders now have possession and a chance.
Yeah, the Red Raiders are definitely going to have to get going. The captain, Patrick McShane, I call him the captain, the player coach. He comes over.
He's much more than a captain.
Absolutely. He has to change his stick to the short stick every time they go on offense, and he's able to do that because they don't have any substitutions at all. Speaking of McShane, he gets a turnover.
Yeah, able to pick it off after the shot from Colton Kinsey was stopped. A nice save from Doug McCoy, who's a great story in his own right. Here's an attack straight off the carpet, but it bounces up and high. LSU will retain possession as they get the rebound.
To get back top side is just a little short on that shot.
Scored in his only game so far this season. Last meeting between these two squads was actually not too far from where we sit right now. It was up at Denton, Texas, home to the North Texas Mean Green, who are, of course, not competing in Division II LSA action this year. But LSU took that one 10-5. And all 4 players who scored in that LSU game in 2024, the Red Raiders, are still on this roster. So you'd have to think some of these Texas Tech attackers will have a little extra confidence when going up against this Tiger defense, just not so far.
Yeah, what a move by Ron Jack. Goodness gracious. What a pass and score.
Caleb Monzone was the one that set it up, but put it right in front of the crease, Heckma, and from that point forward, it was easy money for the LSU Tigers.
Yeah, and they are coming out. I mean, they are on fire. The one thing about their offense is they are setting up their guys right outside of the crease. And although, Texas Tech is collapsing their defense to the box area, they're just not seeing or communicating effectively on defense and stopping those cutters. As you saw, Caleb Monzone make that pass and score.
So 4-0, our first timeout called by Texas Tech. 8 minutes and a second left on the clock here in the first period. And if you're Texas Tech, this is not the start you wanted. You don't have any substitutions. You can't necessarily make a ton of changes. And whenever LSU is able to go a man up, which they have period, they're
Kyle, those are the situations for them that are just not ideal. Not only do you not have enough guys for substitutions, when you go man up, man down situation like that, a team like LSU is going to make you pay for it.
LSU bringing their full contingency, trying to make a play at playing in the big MCLA tournament. They would have to win both, and then they're also scheduled to play Texas on May 2nd down in the Woodlands, which is a suburb of Houston. And so LSU with plenty on their mind overall. That'll also be broadcasted on Game On Sports. They'll make the trip. You will make the trip down to the Woodlands for that LSU-Texas game.
Absolutely. We're thinking about dragging you also.
Oh, good. That'll be fun.
Look at that.
There's a win at the face-off end. Picks it up with the long stick. Now he comes over to make the switch.
Guy does it all. Not only that, man, he's mechanical engineering major. I mean, I told him
on the phone call this week, he said, I picked a decently hard major. We asked, Patrick, what is that major? Mechanical engineering. You said decently hard?
I think I'm going to need you to get some rest and pay attention.
And he's spending late nights. By the way, he's playing a huge role in the middle of this Texas Tech attack and defense at the same time. This one overshot. It'll be a turnover. No chance that time for Colton Malden to get to the loose rock. So LSU will set up on their attacking half of the field again, leading 4-0.
Yeah, Ron Johnson working the alley, getting back to the front of the cage, and makes a great pass and score by Caleb Monzone. What a laser.
Second goal already today. He's had multiple assists. And
wow.
He, just like you said, with an emphatic finish, is able to put it in the back of the net. And you can kind of tell right now with Montagone in between the pipes, it's taking a bit of an adjustment period. It's taking that time for Texas Tech to see their new goalkeeper, the redshirt sophomore, finally get back into form. He made the one save early, but outside of that, LSU's had their way.
Yeah, and he's typically not the guy. I mean, when we talked to Patrick McShane, and he was so down about the fact that he broke his goalie's thumb in practice, so that's the reason why they're going with Caleb Montagone as their goalie.
Maxwell Cisneros, they call him Maxie. 70 saves and 57 goals allowed this season. He was peppered with shots all year long, but really stood on his head for much of the season, trying to keep the Red Raiders in it. Things have been very tough so far for Caleb Montagone, but LSU does retain possession. They win in the face-off X again as Hunter Keir wins his first face-off of the ball game. Keir sharing the duty back and forth with Matt Bates, and Hunter was able to go in and make the play at the face-off X. Here's LSU again looking for some penetration far side. Monzone again underneath shot goes wide, but the Tigers will keep it.
And Coach Coppins, he makes a substitution with number 24, Jay Rashid. And Rashid runs a bit of the X also, so he does a really good job for them. Speed guy. So he's definitely going to be someone to watch. And we have a player down.
Just 5'2", 130 pounds is Jay Rashid. Like you said, there's a player down.
Now that's interesting because they don't have any players to substitute.
Not at all. And I believe there is not a 91 on the Texas Tech roster, neither one of the rosters we were given. But I believe it is Spencer Haddock that is down. taking a look across to a good crowd on hand here from Vista Ridge Middle School. Great day for lacrosse as you think about all the sporting events that are held in this area. Fort Worth holding multiple collegiate events, and TCU just down the road. Then not too far from where we sit right now, Texas Motor Speedway, home to NASCAR, IndyCar, all sorts of stuff down the road. But it is a perfect day for lacrosse, just under 70 degrees. A little windy, I will say, Heckma Harrison.
A little.
Just a tad bit windy.
I tell you what, last night, I thought about this game being played today because we had such gnarly weather come through the DFW area. Really just grateful that we have a day like this because, Brad, we had tornado warnings, torrential downpours, and hail. So, hey, when you have a little bit of sun, a little bit of wind, and some lacrosse, man, that makes things all right.
It does, no doubt about it. I do want to make a correction. It's Luis Reyes who is the down player for Texas Tech, wearing number 91 today. Normally a different number on the roster, but he is helped off to the sideline. So, interesting case here for Texas Tech, as it looks like they may have to play with a man down here. We are having a conversation in the middle of the field with the MCLA officials about how this game can continue. Patrick McShane right in the middle of it, the head coach, player coach for Texas Tech, pleading his case. LSU leading 5-0. 6:15 left here in the first period.
Yeah, and LSU has come out with a pace. I mean, they're making sure that they, as far as their offense, they're organized and obviously on defense doing a lot of communicating and creating those turnovers, but really impressed with this team that I'm seeing and the pace that they're playing with.
This is a team that has the confidence level, has the talent to get to the point of winning this tournament in the LSA Invitational that will conclude the regular season at least, or tournament play for the Lone Star Alliance. And the officials still having plenty of conversations with the Red Raiders squad.
Yeah, I hope they give them an opportunity to compete. I know how much it means to both of these guys, both of these teams, especially in this COVID year. So much has changed with MCLA lacrosse and the LSA division. They just want to make sure that they get these games in because all of these teams deserve to be here.
So it looks like the Red Raiders will stick with just the 9 players. And like you said, competing. I mean, you make the trip all the way from Lubbock to Keller, which is what, a 5 to 6 hour drive, maybe more?
Yeah, I'd say about 8.
Maybe 8 hours, okay. Texas is a big state.
Yeah.
Even if you are playing a man down, it may not be ideal, but you did come to play some lacrosse. And that's another thing. We're talking with all of these coaches, and it's not even just with Texas Tech and LSU, but the other coaches that are here with Texas A&M and excited to play some lacrosse. It's been a year of just waiting and wondering what this season's going to hold. As we are back underway following the injury to Reyes. Hopefully he is okay and able to recover quickly. LSU on the attack, 5-0 underneath 6 minutes to play in the first quarter. Back on the inline extended. LSU looking for some penetration. Nice pickup off of the one hop from Ron Johnson to keep that from being trouble. This one right in the middle. Runs out of time on the shot clock, and the Red Raiders will get possession.
And you see what they're doing. They want to collapse guys like Christian Latino into that crease, and they're going to hide out in that area. As long as Texas Tech doesn't communicate on defense and allow those sliders in those crease areas, that's going to be an easy score for the Tigers.
Here goes Patrick McShane streaking down the right side of the field. Went to the far hash mark before he dumped it off to the goal line, extended for Harper. To the top of the Red Raider formation. Berated quickly from behind by Colin Ferguson, a fantastic junior defender.
Yeah, Ferguson just showing a lot of love with that stick.
I love the physicality that LSU has been playing with as well. You know that whenever they go up against TCU and Texas A&M, it's going to be tough. How about Britt working his way through the defense, and this one goes wide, but it should stick with the Red Raider. No, beat to the point of attack. Nice hustle by Kirby Stifle to get the ball back to the Tigers.
Absolutely. Like you said, he's racing to get over there and create that opportunity for offense for the Tigers, and they're on the fast break now.
Thought there was a chance for Blake Parr
to
get there in time, but he did. You're exactly right. Stepped out. And so the Red Raiders catch a break and get it back without having to go back on defense, a man down.
Now that's just an opportunity missed for the Tigers.
Little pump fake, far side from Britt. Excuse me, that is McShane working with it. Now back to the middle of the field, and that was picked off by Stifle. Now he's got it with a long stick, working past midfield.
Yeah, he's got to take a shot. He going all that way. And Ron Johnson just standing there at the front of the cage and gets an easy score.
Ron Johnson, easy money, and he's got the fishing celebration to go with it as well. Third goal already as he's got a hat trick to his total, and the senior from Georgia continues to make it look easy. That one off of a fantastic pass following the interception from Kirby Stifle.
And in my experience, man, most of the time when you get a long pole running that distance, they always attempt to score. It's like the cherry on top for a long stick.
It's that bookend that you want to see as a defender and that you have a lot of excitement about as a defender. Plus, whenever you're running with that kind of momentum and you have that extra couple inches on your pole,
come on, take the
there's
shot.
some momentum there. Instead, he was very selfless, passed it to a teammate who was wide open, straight in front of the crease. LSU wins it again at the face-off X. Matt Bates continues his dominance at the X, and Johnson cannot reach the top shelf to get that one. Keeps it in his in his possession though. LSU a little slappy on this possession to start things off.
Yeah, defensively, this is where Tech has to. A lot of communicating out there. They're getting down into the restraining area, but still they know that they're outflanked by the Tigers.
Monzone trying to get a little fancy with it. Faked the pass far side to Zach Sherman. Fed it to Johnson on the near side. But the pass goes awry and Texas Tech gets it back. So far just 2 saves for Caleb Montagone. It's been a tough day in between the pipes for him. Can't necessarily blame him. Texas Tech playing down for the rest of the game, seemingly, as Reyes is out.
And they're not making that clear easy at all. Keeping that defense on them and taking it for a ride, and they get the turnover with the rear check.
LSU now leading 6-0, underneath 2.5 to play here in this first quarter. But Heckma, when you're the Tigers and you're in this situation, your thought process now goes to tomorrow, right?
Absolutely.
You're thinking about keeping things clean, continuing to get good reps, not necessarily wasting on the field, especially when you haven't had a ton. This is only their 4th game of the year. And if you're Texas Tech, you're playing for pride, you're playing to try and make not necessarily ideal scenarios for them. But the Red Raiders having to do what they can to at least remain in contention here.
When you talk about the Round Rock qualifier, this is LSU. They want this opportunity, and they also know that they have to be sharp. So playing down to their competition is something that they're not going to do. So like you said, with the opportunities, the opportunities that they haven't had to play, they're looking at this as a matchup that they know they're going to have to stay sharp this entire game.
McShane was weaving through the defense, trying to find some kind of room to work, but instead he passed it off to Colton Kinsey, who took a wild shot that went well high from straightaway distance.
McShane was on his one-man army mission, but he did make a pass.
Here's Hannah working far side. Texas Tech trying to get on the board. Their last game, 10-1 was the final score. They were able to get on the board. Their goalkeeper Cisneros kept them in the game with 14 saves and a ground ball in the loss. There's a goal line extended for the Red Raiders. Now back up top as Harper Hill continues to work on his defender. Back to Kinsey.
A lot of tough defense being played by the Tigers, and that's a turnover. All that's just set up with the defense that the Tigers are playing.
Yeah, they were suffocating. Garrett Frey able to work in the middle of that passing lane, take it away, and like you said, with an easy clear, working with Wally Sofield. That one deflected high. A long stick of Cade Hernandez, who does have 2 goals this season. Put a nice shot on it and that little extra mustard on it, but sent it high. Clock runs down, the end of the first quarter. And a team that is on a mission this weekend to come out 2-0. And they are off to a hot start in that regard. We'll flip sides. But the Tigers lead it over the Red Raiders 6-0 here on Game On Sports. Kyle Yeomans alongside. They just kind of kept things going after the man advantage.
As they should have. And you talk about, the competition aspect of it, and Tech knows that they're obviously outmanned now, actually being a man down in the literal sense. But this is a game that both of these teams came into fully thinking that they had the ability to win. And so for LSU, they know that they have to take care of business in order for them to play on Sunday. So they came out sharp. They're doing a lot of things on offense, which you expected them to do, but where I'm more impressed is their communication on defense.
Yeah, the communication defensively has been very, very fluid. And we even mentioned the physicality earlier with players like Stifle and Frey continuing to be pests with the long stick. It's been pretty impressive, not only the fluidity of the defense and the way that they've been able to rotate they have when they do finally get to the point of attack.
Yeah, number 4, Garrett Frey, like you said, he's standing in those lanes. He's communicating, but also just not making anything easy. If it's just a clear, they're bumping these guys on the ride. When you're down in those, if you're working the alley, they're bumping you and they're defending the perimeter. So they're not giving these guys any easy looks, and that's just, all of that is just Shane Coppins and his attitude towards getting this championship this weekend.
Coppins himself in his 5th season with LSU, played professionally after a stout career at Loyola up in the Northeast and worked his way down to Baton Rouge. His twin brother in Taylor also a part of the program, and he's got a lot of help from the coaching staff as well. Chris Condon, defensive coordinator, played at LSU and was a part of this MCLA program. Brought Bobby Grove, who is the Tulane head coach in the MCLA. Tulane not playing in 2021, so he has a little extra help whenever it comes to the coaching staff, but even him alone would be a lot of a big advantage to say whenever it comes to these programs.
Man, I tell you, a spark plug guy, man. You talk to him and he just makes the hair on your forearm stand up, man, because he's so intense and he loves this, lacrosse program, and all he's talking about is building it up to be in comparisons with those larger Division I programs. So that's what his mind is on, and that's why he came to Baton Rouge, just to build up this lacrosse program.
Ron Johnson with 3 goals in that first quarter, a hat trick already for the senior. The junior Mason Cardiff started the scoring, and he has his 1 goal on the day. And then Caleb Monzone, who is one of the best short stick attackers that we're going to see in this tournament, in this LSA Invitational. He's able to get off to a hot start, and the sophomore had a pair of goals in the first 15 minutes as well. Just about ready for the start of the second quarter. Kyle Yeomans, Heckma Harrison here for Game On Sports. Glad you're with us. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button while you're there. Of the weekend, you'll, of course, have some fantastic lacrosse tonight. 7:30 will be the opening face-off between TCU and Texas A&M. An in-state bout between 2 very, very big rivals between each other.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have an LSU player actually switch sides.
That's what it looks like. Flip into the white jersey. Going to play a little long stick defense here for the Red Raiders.
How about that? Now,
he's number 26 on his white jersey. I believe it's John Brown, if we're going to go by the LSU jersey and why by the penny he put on. If it's the same number, then it is John Brown, junior defenseman, 6 foot, 185 pounds, out of Huntersville, North Carolina, going to flip sides and play for the Red Raiders, at least here in this second quarter. We'll see if that continues. There's a couple other players that are actually going to switch over and get some playing time here.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. They know that these guys are a man down, and, at this point, Texas Tech even knows it, so it's just a matter of just getting through this game, but also supporting each other's programs.
Rory McCracken, the senior defenseman, and then Jack Fignan, the freshman, that's 5'10", also with white jerseys here on this near sideline. You can see them at the bottom corner of your screen.
That's a good job by LSU.
There's a couple other players. They're continuing to load up that Texas Tech bench.
It's a good job by LSU switching their defense up. In the first quarter, they came out and man, now you see them switch back to a zone.
Far side set up for Peyton Hanna. Like you said, LSU doing a good job rotating. There really has been zero penetration from the Texas Tech side in this game. 2 shots, both of which went high. Here's a chance on the outside of the crease, a dive from Ryan Britt, and it's knocked away. The Tigers stand strong on the defensive end.
That's a good job by Kirby Stifle down there pressuring at the Rhino line.
So Patrick McShane getting a bit of a breather. He has earned it for Texas Tech, and now he's having a conversation with his soon-to-be subs. I love the sportsmanship here. I think that's a fun part of lacrosse, especially in a year like this where both teams are just trying to get games in, just trying to get reps. I absolutely love it. Here's a try here from Monzone. Tried near side, but instead held on to it. He was berated by his teammate, but not so teammate, and John Brown.
Yeah, well, John Brown has the advantage. He knows where Monzone's trying to go, and he shuts off that alley, doesn't let him get the pass in.
John Brown, junior out of Huntersville, like I mentioned, but a very stout player. Ron Johnson now up top. Thought about it was Kamowski. Now he works off to the right and then dishes it back behind the net.
Yeah, Kamowski had an opportunity to shoot, but he didn't. Thought better of it and got a pass, basically working on an assist, and that's an unforced error by Texas Tech, and possession's going to remain with the Tigers.
Yeah, Colton Malden got in there, did a great job of getting a stick on the pass, but just could not pick it up off the turf. Shot clock violation, though, and it gives it back over to Texas Tech. So the referees are going to have to keep that clock themselves. Turnover deep into their defensive end as Texas Tech puts it on the turf. It was picked up initially by Wally Sofield, but a whistle blows and the Red Raiders will keep it. Right at midfield between John Brown and his former teammate, I should say.
How
about this in the middle, looking for an assist, and it is a goal. Ryan Britt, the junior, puts the Red Raiders on the board at 6-1.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, and that's McCoy. It looks like they've made a change at the goalie. Oh, that is McCoy.
Yeah, the plan was going into the game that Doug McCoy was going to play the first half and then move into who they call King Henry Ballard in the second half. King Henry, who has had 17 saves this season. McCoy had 28 saves in his 2 games so far, so both of them very, very good in their limited amount of action this season.
Well, last weekend I thought that number 18 was Henry Ballard and just raved about the job that Henry Ballard did, but he was back in Louisiana, well, back in New Orleans.
There's a goal again from Ron Johnson, and I say again because it's the 4th time already here in this first half he has found the back of the net. And just like that, LSU answers quickly.
Yeah, Ron Johnson is a guy to watch because once he camps out right there northeast of that crease, man, he makes it happen.
But in talking about that trip to Shreveport, you were raving about the job that Henry Ballard was doing, but it wasn't necessarily Henry Ballard. It was the number 18 jersey However, it was Doug McCoy that was in net.
Well, I felt like I did my best work in Shreveport talking
Certainly.
about Henry Ballard, and then I find out 4 days later that it wasn't Henry Ballard, it was Doug McCoy. And I'm like, well, Coach, I think you could have let me know that prior to the face-off.
Coach Coppins even saying that afterwards it was not even an issue. Doug McCoy was saying, I wore that jersey. I wore number 18 to support Henry Ballard. So I didn't mind Heckma Harrison saying my name as coach or as Henry Ballard on the stream last week.
No, I understand. I mean, but you want to give credit where credit is due, and he definitely, Doug McCoy, he stood on his head a lot of times because TCU was coming after him. It was a highly competitive game, and for a guy that came in on just a day's notice, it was a wonderful job.
So a little hesitation there, gives it back over to LSU. It looked like Colton Malden was just okay letting that away to the crease and let Montagone grab it with the big net. He did not clamp down. Instead, it was picked up on a turnover by Caleb Monzone, who then worked his way back into the front of the crease and finished for the hat trick. He's got 3 goals in this one. Just a misplaced error that time, and you got to be more aggressive sometimes whenever the ball is deep in your attacking zone.
Man, we want to call Caleb Monzone a smooth criminal because that's what he did. He got in between those guys that were not taking the advantage to get the ball. He just crept right in and got the ball and said, well, while I'm here, why don't I score?
So back to the face-off X. It's now 8-1 our score. Caleb Monzone has a hat trick. Ron Johnson has 4 goals. 7 of the 8 goals have come from those 2. And they remain a heavy part of the attacking for LSU.
Yeah, I love they're setting up their offense. Just
yeah, not sure if that's audible on the stream or not, but it has been going on for at least 2 minutes now.
Okay. Well, we're going to just go right through it, man. Hey, I'm a parent. My ignore game is strong.
There you go. Here's a nice spin move, far side. Good defense from from Texas Tech to jar that one free. And we do have a penalty. It'll keep it with the Tigers. It looked like that time. Nice play from Colton Kinsey to pick up the ground ball. Picked it straight up off the carpet, but there was some extra contact from John Brown and company to at least force that ball out of the stick. Here's another one. Zone. Oh, how cheeky was that? Off the right shoulder, went straight around Colton Malden and was just pinpoint accurate. Top shelf again for Monzone. He's got 4.
Oh, my God. Dude, we have such a great angle from this van. And, man, Caleb Monzone, that was a laser shot where no one could reach it right there to the corner. And, hey, man, where does Dad hide the cookies? At the top shelf.
Just a pinpoint shot. Impressive. Again for Monzone, and another easy win initially. Finally, Jackson Rosebush gets the long stick on it. He picks it up coming straight out of the wing.
And we had a substitution at the Fogo, and that was Hunter Kier. But nonetheless, same result. We get a win.
He's 2 for 2 so far at the face-off X. Had the one win earlier in the first quarter and then turned back around and has done it again here. Back and forth they go between Bates and Kier, and that is huge for both freshman Fogos to have that kind of and have those looks at opponents like they have so far here against Texas Tech.
Yeah, Ron Johnson doing a good job. You see, once he makes the pass off down to the X, he goes right back to that crease area where he's been making his money.
Underneath, 6:15 to go here in the first half of action. LSU leading this one 9-1 and continuing to keep it in their half of the field.
So that's Vaughn Order working the X. It's a great pass to number 3, Brett Davis. What a!
They're going to wave it off.
Oh, my God.
Whistle blew before the shot. Wally Sofield wound up and let that one fly.
Oh, my goodness.
It's through the trees and into the back of the net, but it is a no goal.
How did he see that?
I can tell you are disappointed.
I am disappointed.
Nice shot from the freshman. Would have been his 4th goal of the year. But instead, Texas Tech gets it back, and the Red Raiders have a chance to continue their chipping away.
Looks like we finally got the shot clock working on this side, on the far side.
Yeah, at least one of the 2 shot clocks are working. LSU giving up a couple of players to provide a bit of depth here for Texas Tech. There's a shot from Ryan Britt, far side.
Oh,
that one's stone cold stopped right into the net of King Henry Ballard. His first save of the ball game so far. They were originally going to wait until the second half, have not done so. Now in transition, LSU trying to clean things up. Long stick strike, and that one goes to the back of the net. A fantastic strike again from Cade Hernandez, his second shot attempt.
I don't think I've ever seen a double bouncing goal, and that's exactly what it did. It double bounced and rolled right past Caleb Montagon.
Had an assist earlier in the game, like you said. Hey, why not let it rip with the long stick? And
exactly.
he got back to the point and let it ride. 4 minutes left here in the second quarter. And the score now up into the double digits at 10-1 in favor of the Tigers.
Like Pat McShane is fully rested. He's back at the Fogo for the Red Raiders.
Looks like they're going to have to switch the stick. No, they're going to make a switch. As now
I spoke too soon.
LSU v. LSU in the side. And he does get the win for Texas Tech. How about that? Going in as the Fogo, getting a win against your teammate and your quote-unquote starters at the position at the face-off X. And now the Red Raiders will keep it going the other direction.
Shane's going to
one goes wide, trying to save it out of play on the far sideline, but not in time to make the stop, was Toby Anderson.
Kreigel just a little too much mustard on that pass.
Sent it a little bit high and out of reach. See what the Red Raiders can do here. Peyton Hanna, who has been very active, the freshman from Houston, Texas, Seven Lakes High School. Works on the goal line extended, now back behind to Ryan Britt, who has the lone goal so far for the Red Raiders.
Red Raiders doing a better job. I guess Britt now setting up their offense behind X, just waiting to get back top side and get a pass out to a cutter.
Britt off the bounce, that did go in.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, it went underneath Henry Ballard and just underneath the crossbar. Ryan Britt showing off the finesse. Up and over his defender and then clinks that one straight off the turf and into the back of the net.
You talk about finesse. That is the way to finesse a shot right there, because we had no idea that went behind King Henry Ballard. But man, I mean, you got these guys, they're coming on strong. I think the substitutions have given them an opportunity to get rested. Imagine that, Texas Tech, if they had a bench and able to make substitutions, they can definitely make it a lot more competitive.
No doubt about it. Probably that conversation with anybody with the Red Raiders saying if you had a full roster, definitely think this would be a more competitive season for Texas Tech. But just like really everybody else, you having to deal with the craziness of this uncertain year. Here's Peyton Hanna working in toward the crease, dishes it back behind the net. Not Ryan Britt working the X this time. Instead, Britt up toward the top of the formation, and now they work it back around to head coach Patrick McShane. McShane working with the long stick, weaves his way through the defense, loses it as he falls to the turf, and it goes straight into the net of Ballard.
Yeah, on that play with Britt where he scored, that was as close to a clear out. If you're thinking about basketball, they just gave him a complete clear out and situation and able to get a score. Very impressive.
Britt that time streaking back down the field, almost got into the opponent's rotation, but dove right at the midfield line trying to knock that ball away. Great hustle. Getting a stop from the officials, trying to get the shot clock worked up as it is now rolling. And we're back underway. 30 seconds left here in the first half. We'll see if LSU by 8 at the moment. This one right in front of the crease, knocked away, keeps it with the Tigers. Last opportunity. Jarred free again, picked up on the ground ball, and now Texas Tech will take it the other direction.
Got a flag thrown on the far side.
And a final shot. As the buzzer goes off, we do have that flag. And so Texas Tech will have the advantage after the slash called on LSU. So the Red Raiders will have an advantage coming out of the halftime break. Trailing 10-2 as LSU has been dominant against the short-handed Red Raiders here in this first half, Heckma.
Absolutely, and Caleb Monzon and guys like Ron Johnson, I mean, there are the reasons that LSU has been so successful. They are cutting in front of that crease and just finding those open areas. You talk about trick shots going on here in Fort Worth. We've seen a few, and like I said, those are the usual suspects. Those guys, Ron Johnson doing a phenomenal job, and also the goalie. Both goalies, doing an awesome job as well for LSU. For Texas Tech, obviously, it's going to be the situation with them where they just don't have enough men to compete here in Fort Worth. We still have a second half of lacrosse to go, and you stay with us here at Game On Sports.
Absolutely. We will be back with the start of the third quarter. Texas Tech trailing, LSU leading this one 10-2. Our score here from Keller. So a bit of a development here on Game On Sports that we've actually seen the end of this first game of our doubleheader in the LSA Invitational as LSU wins it 10-2. They call it at halftime. Not necessarily saying this is an outlandish decision given the circumstances from Texas Tech, but certainly one that you at least got one more quarter in and you're happy about that.
No, I respect that. I mean, you have your guys. You don't want to compromise any of your guys either. And so I respect that by both clubs, coming together and just making a sound decision to go ahead and cancel it. I mean, or just say that LSU.
And that's the biggest thing, I think, especially with a situation like this where Texas Tech did not game. Shane Coppins knew that. He knew that was the case. He knew his LSU Tigers were going to have a man advantage just based off of pure numbers. And so their ultimate goal was to come out of this weekend 2-0. Now they get a chance to do that. They're 1-0. They will take on the winner of Texas A&M and TCU. Tomorrow's game time at 3 p.m. for those listening and following the LSU Tigers lacrosse program. They will take on the Aggies or the Horned Frogs in what will be a rematch of both of those games at some point in start time tomorrow. Texas Tech, at least at this point, looks like their season comes to an end for Coach Patrick McShane and that entire program, and a very rich history for Texas Tech in terms of LSA lacrosse, and they'll have to rebound after just not having enough players at this point.
Yeah. And look, in all fairness, with everything that's been going on this year, and compete. You know, these guys are definitely, especially when we're talking about Texas Tech, being shorthanded and still making the trip and still wanting to be competitive. So kudos to that squad for doing that, and also to Coach, Coppins for also giving up his guys to go over and help them get through the first half. This is a classy act.
It was a class act, and got to see some lacrosse, at least one half of it, but you've got more coming up here at 7th Stream, as TCU and Texas A&M will fight for that other spot in the LSA Invitational Championship. Once again, that LSA Championship game will be tomorrow at 3 p.m. But for now, for Heckma Harrison, Fred Garner, and for Kyle Yeomans, saying goodbye here from Keller, Texas at the moment. We'll see you at 7:30 here on Game On Sports.